There are two aspects to every promise. One involves the process of making the promise, and the other involves the process of fulfilling the promise. I covered the process of making the promise in previous posts. This post is about the process of fulfilling a promise, which occurs during the fulfillment phase of the conversation for action. This is the phase of the conversation where the provider takes the actions necessary to fulfill the promise. It is important to note that there is a difference between keeping and managing promises. In order to consistently keep their promises, the provider has to have the competence to manage their promises. While some promises only involve the provider, other promises require the provider to make requests and obtain commitments from other team members. In the first case, the provider only has to rely on their available capacity and competence to fulfill the promise. However, in the second case, the complexity of the fulfillment phase increases significantly. In this case, the provider has to create and manage a network of commitments that rely on the capacity and competence of multiple players. In essence, the fulfillment of the promise becomes a project that starts with the promise and ends with a declaration of fulfillment. More importantly, the provider has to take on the role of a project manager. In this role, mastery of the conversation for action becomes a critical success factor along with project management skills. This is where planning is critical. As the old saying goes, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. It is important to note that no matter how many people are involved, the provider is the single point of accountability when it comes to fulfilling the promise. This means it is imperative that the provider obtain authentic promises from each team member. During the fulfillment phase, aside from fulfilling the promise, there are two typical situations that can occur. The first situation occurs if the customer decides to cancel the request. The second situation occurs if the provider decides to revoke the promise completely or partially due to unforeseen circumstances. In either case, this starts a renegotiation process and typically has an impact on trust as well as other costs. These costs are somewhat mitigated depending on how early in the fulfillment process they occur, together with the quality of the renegotiation conversation. The declaration for fulfillment does not close the conversation for action. Rather, it starts the acceptance phase, which will be covered in the next post. If you want to learn more about improving your execution capability, please reach out to me at 858-774-6041 or email me at rcepple@strategic-momentum.com. I look forward to speaking with you.